Long before his name trended across continents, before the standing ovations and sold-out concerts, Jonathan Antoine was simply a quiet kid from Essex with a voice no one saw coming. Born on January 13, 1995, Jonathan didn't chase attention. In fact, he avoided it. He was painfully shy, often keeping to himself, and battled with confidence issues that shadowed him throughout childhood. But what Jonathan lacked in social confidence, he made up for with something that stopped people cold, an extraordinary tenor voice that seemed to come from a different century. At West Hatch High School, his teachers and peers quickly realized that there was something deeply special hidden beneath his awkward exterior. Encouraged by vocal coach Jenny Ewington and music tutor Jeanette Brown, Jonathan began to train more seriously. But even then, he struggled to see in himself what others did. He described his younger self as someone plagued by insecurity, burdened by body image issues, and terrified of the spotlight. While most teenagers were dreaming of football stardom or Instagram followers, Jonathan found refuge in the intricate world of classical music. It was a place where emotion outweighed appearance and technique mattered more than swagger. It gave him structure, discipline, and perhaps most importantly, escape. His voice became the only place he truly felt powerful. Still, no one, including Jonathan himself, expected that power would one day shake an entire nation. But fate was already tuning its instruments, and the opportunity that would force Jonathan to face every fear he'd ever harbored was already waiting in the wings of a television soundstage. It was the kind of moment reality TV producers dream about, and it almost didn't happen. In 2012, a visibly nervous 17-year-old Jonathan Antoine walked onto the stage of Britain's Got Talent alongside his classmate Charlotte Giaconelli. The crowd didn't quite know what to expect. Neither did the judges. Jonathan, with long, curly hair and a slouched posture, looked more like a kid trying to survive high school than someone about to make history. But as the first notes of the prayer rang out across the theater, the mood shifted instantly. The raw, operatic power of Jonathan's voice silenced every doubt in the room. Even the ever-cynical Simon Cowell dropped his pen and stared, stunned. The clip went viral within hours. Across the UK, people began asking, who is this kid? The answer was simple. He was the shy boy from Essex who had just shattered every assumption about what a star should look like. That performance didn't just win hearts, it shook the industry. Suddenly, Jonathan and Charlotte were front-page news, dubbed the new Susan Boyle moment of the season. They finished second in the competition, but for many, they were the true winners. Yet behind the scenes, the question began to surface. Was Jonathan being held back by the duo format? Was his voice too big to be shared? Some industry insiders hinted that Simon Cowell himself believed Jonathan had solo potential far beyond what could be explored in a duet. The pressure intensified. Interviews piled up. Media speculation grew. But Jonathan, ever humble, remained focused on the music. Even then, he seemed uncomfortable with sudden fame. His interviews were shy, often hesitant, but always honest. Still, beneath that humility, something was brewing. A need to find his own voice, not just musically, but personally. And just 2 years later, that desire would lead to a career-defining decision to step out of the comfort of the duo and into the unknown as a solo artist. When Jonathan Antoine announced in 2014 that he would be parting ways with Charlotte Giaconelli to pursue a solo career, fans were split. Some feared the magic of their duet would be lost forever. Others, especially those who saw the quiet fire in Jonathan's eyes, knew it was inevitable. The decision wasn't born out of drama or ego. According to interviews at the time, both Jonathan and Charlotte had grown artistically and wanted to explore different paths. But for Jonathan, the shift wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. Going solo meant standing alone, no vocal harmonies to lean on, no duet structure to shield the nerves. It was a leap into a world where the spotlight burned hotter and expectations ran higher. Yet from his very first solo album, Tenore, released that same year, it was clear Jonathan hadn't just survived the jump, he'd soared. The album was a triumph, debuting at the top of the Classical Artist Albums chart in the UK. It revealed something new. Not just a voice, but an identity taking shape. He followed it with Believe in 2016, and then Going the Distance in 2020, each project showing more maturity, range, and risk. His interpretations of classic arias and crossover pieces carried not just technical brilliance, but emotional weight. Offstage, Jonathan began to speak more openly about his journey, his anxiety, his struggles with self-esteem, and his desire to evolve not only as a singer, but as a man. One surprising revelation came during interviews. Jonathan confessed to having a love for heavy metal, progressive rock, and even more aggressive genres of music, an unexpected contrast to his public image as a gentle opera tenor. This clash between classical performance and private musical taste sparked curiosity. Was Jonathan hiding a rock star beneath his velvet voice? Or was he redefining what musical identity could look like in the 21st century? Whatever the case, one thing was certain. This wasn't the shy schoolboy from Essex anymore. He was something new, something bold, and his evolution had only just begun. If Jonathan Antoine's public persona is the picture of refined elegance, a tenor in tailored suits performing arias under chandeliers, then his private self tells a much more complex and far more fascinating story. Behind the curtain of his classical success lies a man whose tastes, influences, and personal rituals often clash with the expectations placed upon him. While the world sees him as the embodiment of operatic tradition, Jonathan himself has openly shared that his musical diet includes heavy metal, progressive rock, and even extreme music styles far removed from the grandeur of Verdi or Puccini. In interviews, he's talked about listening to Dream Theater and Opeth, not as guilty pleasures, but as genuine sources of inspiration. To some, this seemed contradictory. How could the same person who melts hearts with Ave Maria also headbang to distorted guitars? But for Jonathan, it's not contradiction, it's balance. It's the emotional intensity that links these genres, not the instrumentation. It's storytelling through sound, and it's this inner duality that has increasingly intrigued fans and critics alike. Over the years, Jonathan has carefully curated what the public sees. He's not one to overshare on social media or flood the internet with content. His Instagram is modest, mostly focused on music, charity work, and occasional personal milestones. No shirtless selfies, no impulsive rants, no signs of the attention-seeking behavior that dominates celebrity culture. In fact, that restraint has become part of his charm. While many artists build their brand on accessibility, Jonathan builds his own mystique, and it works. But this contrast, a man who performs with angelic grace yet privately dives into chaotic, aggressive music, raises a compelling question. Is this public persona still fully him? Or is it a well-tailored shell he occasionally outgrows? Is there a part of Jonathan Antoine we've never truly seen, waiting in the wings? As whispers about his transformation continue to ripple through his fan base, one idea begins to emerge. Perhaps he's not just a tenor anymore. Perhaps he's becoming something more unorthodox. Something bolder. Something, dare we say, rock star, adjacent. For years, Jonathan Antoine's name was synonymous with classical music purity, a velvet-voiced tenor who upheld tradition. But in recent years, a subtle shift has left fans and media alike speculating. Is Jonathan Antoine quietly crafting a new image, one that flirts with the rock star archetype in spirit, if not in letter? It started with small things. In interviews, he casually mentioned a love for heavy metal and progressive rock, not just as a side interest, but as formative influences. To the classically minded audience who adored his Puccini renditions, this was more than unexpected. It was downright rebellious. Soon, fans began noticing hints, slightly edgier photo shoots, darker themes in his music videos, and a growing confidence in his public persona that didn't quite fit the reserved opera singer mold. No, Jonathan wasn't throwing TVs out of hotel windows or shredding guitars on stage, but he was in his own way breaking molds. One tabloid even dubbed him the reluctant rock star in a tenor's tuxedo, a phrase that spread like wildfire across fan forums, and the timing couldn't have been better. As the classical genre struggles to captivate younger audiences, Jonathan's fusion of discipline and danger is quietly rewriting the rulebook. Some believe this evolution is intentional, an effort to expand his fan base and prove he's not confined to one box. Others think it's simply Jonathan shedding layers of expectation and stepping into a truer version of himself. But with every public appearance, every cryptic tweet, and every stylistic experiment, the question grows louder. Is Jonathan Antoine preparing for a full transformation? Or is this a rare case of an artist embracing multiple worlds without betraying either? The idea of a rock star no longer means tattoos and chaos. It means owning your narrative, commanding a crowd, and refusing to be defined by labels. And in that sense, Jonathan Antoine may already be one. Still, as the speculation builds, another reality remains. Transformation isn't just about image, it's about what you overcome. And for Jonathan, that includes battles far deeper than musical genre. Behind every ovation is a private war, and for Jonathan Antoine, the applause often drowned out a quiet, constant struggle, one not fought on stage, but within. While his journey from bullied schoolboy to international star seems like a fairy tale, the reality has been far more layered. From the beginning, Jonathan has openly wrestled with anxiety, self-image, and the paralyzing weight of expectation. Early fame didn't just bring opportunity, it brought pressure, intense scrutiny, and a spotlight that burned brighter than he was prepared for. Critics marveled at his voice, but often obsessed over his appearance. Headlines would pair his talent with phrases like unlikely star, subtly reminding the world that Jonathan didn't look like their idea of a leading man. But instead of bending to that narrative, he began reshaping it. Over time, Jonathan made meaningful changes, not to please anyone else, but to take back control. He focused on health, lost weight, and began confronting the anxiety that had shadowed him since childhood. In 2022, he revealed another deeply personal truth. He had been diagnosed with autism. For some celebrities, that might have been a PR risk. For Jonathan, it was liberation. The diagnosis didn't change who he was. It gave him language for things he had always felt but couldn't explain. Suddenly, his journey made more sense. The hypersensitivity, the deep emotional processing, the need for solitude. These weren't flaws. They were part of his unique artistic wiring. Through this lens, his transformation becomes even more powerful. Because it's not about reinvention for the sake of relevance. It's about reclaiming identity through honesty. Jonathan doesn't posture. He doesn't chase trends. He doesn't fake confidence. And that radical authenticity has become his brand. As fans watch him blend classical grace with flashes of rebellion, they don't see a man trying to be something he's not. They see a man brave enough to become everything he is. But what does all this mean for his future? Is he gearing up for a genre shift? A rebrand? Or is he already there, quietly living the life of a modern rock star without ever needing to shout? So, has Jonathan Antoine truly transformed from a shy schoolboy into a rock star? Or have we all just expanded our definition of what a rock star really is? The answer may not lie in ants or eyeliner, but in something far more powerful: defiance. Not the kind that's loud and reckless, but the quiet rebellion of refusing to be boxed in. Jonathan's journey is not a makeover, it's a revelation. A slow, steady emergence of a man who no longer hides behind duets, doubts, or decorum. He has embraced his contradictions, a tenor who listens to metal, an introvert who commands a stage, a neurodivergent artist thriving in an industry built on conformity. And that in itself is rock and roll. He hasn't traded opera for punk guitars, but he has disrupted expectations. He's proven that transformation doesn't always come with costume changes, it can come with confidence. That standing your ground, being vulnerable, and still choosing to show up day after day is its own form of rebellion. Today, Jonathan Antoine doesn't need to scream to be heard. His presence is louder than ever, not because he changed who he was, but because he finally stopped apologizing for it. He has built a legacy without scandal, earned millions without flexing it, and cultivated a global fan base by staying grounded. Whether he ever officially crosses over into a new genre or not, one thing is crystal clear: the shy boy from Essex is gone. In his place stands an artist fully aware of his power, unafraid of his past, and unapologetically charting his own path. And if that isn't the definition of a rock star in 2025, what is?